What makes a good coach?
It's totally different right now. I really believe that. And today, back in the day, trust came with a title. If your name was coach, all of a sudden, you instantly had credibility, you had respect.
Yep.
All right. Now, today, you've got to earn that trust. You've got to earn that respect. You've got to earn the understanding of getting the best out of that player. So I think, first and foremost, it's got to be trust. Secondly, you got to be able to communicate.
Yep.
You really got to be able to.
Which is different than when you were coaching,
yeah,
right?
because your word was just, it didn't mean anything.
Right.
It was just your word. You got to communicate, and I think you got to connect. You've got to connect with those players, because if you want to win the games you need to win, those guys got to play for you. If they're not playing for you, you know what? They're going to win the games they're supposed to win, but not the games you need to win if you're going to be an excellent team. And then you got to be able to solve problems, because you're going to have problems each and every day. And how you deal with those problems within your staff, within your locker room. And the key is, within your locker room, you better have someone who can coach that locker room. But if you can't solve problems, you can't be a head coach today.
Mike, I'm asking Seth the difference of 7 years when he stopped coaching, and yet the number one thing I notice is now teams are looking at, well, we're going to hire the coach first, and then he's going to bring the GM. Is that the right formula for this thing?
I don't think so. And one of the challenges we're seeing, too, is the coaches that are going from college to pro. Players want answers, and they're selfish. In pro football, they're selfish. They want answers. They want to be nurtured, and they want to know that they're being put in the best position possible. You look at a guy like Coach Belichick, you could say a lot of things about him, but he gives players the answers to the test. And there's a side of Coach Belichick that people don't see, which is one where he's nurturing them and he's providing the answers to them. In college, sometimes you could see guys being much more demonstrative. It's harder to get away with that at the pro level. And when I talk to guys like Coach Parcells, and I'm very fortunate to still have a good relationship with him, he says, oh, Mr. T, I'm a dinosaur. I can't relate to these guys, because a lot of players have grown up in the era of social media where they put themselves and their brand before the team.
Did you notice he's looking at Bart the
Yeah.
How many followers do you have?
Right. We're running B-roll, and he's like this.
You just hit me on my Twitter, by the way. Right?
Yeah, exactly. But the point is this, you still want to be able to inspire and lead people and have challenging conversations, but ultimately you got to put the team first, and when the team succeeds, it's good for all of us.
So, Bart, what is the difference between today's player, these guys, these coaches are trying to lead, and when you were playing?
Well, they're mentally weak, and you think about everything's headed to them, because you got to think what happens is these guys are being patted on the back all the time. They're not kicked in the butt enough. So what happens is the first time they face adversity, they don't know how to handle it. They go to their social media. They're so emotional. Right? First thing they do is go to social media, talk about the coach did this to me, he did that to me, my feelings are hurt. I think they need to toughen up. But also, the greatest coaches I've ever been around were the ones that understood it was a partnership and not a dictatorship. Because what happens is I'm a grown man, right? First they fire me, but then they're going to fire you. You're right behind me. And Brian Billick was one of the best coaches because he understood that. And he understood that you have to give grown men the why and the what.
Right, I don't think anything's wrong with that, and I agree slightly with what you're saying. But I don't think anything's wrong with being in touch emotionally. I don't think that's a bad thing. And saying that they're not used to criticism or they're not used to getting kicked in the butt, you can't argue that any generation prior to this one has been kicked in the butt or ridiculed more than anything. You're
self-inflicted.
You're on social media.
That's self-inflicted.
No, it's also, but it's the way they grew up. It's like arguing that you have to stop living in the city that you lived in. The world they entered was a world where social media was key. You can't be an 18, 20-year-old person and not be on social media. If you're there, it's deleterious to your emotions and everything, but you have to be there. And so I don't understand when people say they're soft now, but they're also exposed to more criticism than we were, and that was just a few years ago.
And just to wrap this up, I'll tell you, when we interviewed Rex Ryan, and there's a lot of things you could say about Rex, about being braggadocious, confident, all that, but fundamentally, at the end of the day, he stood really for one thing, and you know this really well, Bart. Players don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
And if they can help you get better.
That's right. But once you have equity in that relationship, then you can have those hard conversations.
But see, that's the biggest difference right there, is because the struggle for me is college amateur athletes and then the professional player. It's two completely different conversations. Right. Secondly, how you treat player 1 and how you treat player 53 is completely different.
But how do you balance?
Wait, they're trying to do everything.
But let me ask this: how do you balance that though as a coach? Because you have to have this sense of trying to treat everybody.
You got to treat everyone fair.
I treat everybody fair, not the same. That was Brian Billick's line right there. He tells us all the time, listen, I'm not going to treat you the same way that you treat I treat Ray Lewis. Ray Lewis get 2 or 3 times. Bart, you get once.
There's
you got one floor banana.
Got to be better than your problem.
There's a famous story in Miami.
Talent breeds tolerance.
Jimmy Johnson said, hey, Dan Marino, you fall asleep in a meeting, I'm going to wake you up. You back up corner, you fall asleep in a meeting, I'm going to cut you.
Absolutely. That's the way it is, man. That's life.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports, highlights, and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.